Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Productivity Mastery after a few weeks of a pause. Yes, Mr. Stoyan has been on the road doing different events, speaking at events, consulting, doing workshops, traveling like crazy. I had this period of 30 days on the road with no breaks, pretty much. And when you engage on being on the road, you end up meeting amazing people. One of these people is my guest today, and I'm super actually excited to speak about one of the best in the world in his respective industry, a very special person I had the chance to meet at the Web Summit, one of the best tech events in the world. Both of us were speakers at the event, and I would say out of the 800 speakers, he was one of the most friendly, the most giving people that I've met. He would be the person that will come and be just kind and introduce people, share good vibes. So we had a great this time during the event. But the more I spoke to him, the more intrigued I I started to be about what he does. And today we're going to talk about AI, a topic everybody is curious about, a topic that's very important when it comes to productivity and where the world is going. And just to open the conversation, I just want to start with this, Matthew. You had an interesting encounter, and AI was somehow related to that. Could you maybe start with sharing this story, and then we can start unveiling the rest?
Yeah, sure. So, not too long ago, I was invited to come and visit a longtime friend, someone who I had grown up with and spent a majority of my childhood around. Individual is really important to me. Worked for the family business, and uh, a few years back, they had received a cancer diagnosis. And so, they've gone through a series of treatments. Uh, most of them unsuccessful until I got this invitation to come and visit them not too long ago. And it was at the bedside of this dying man in which artificial intelligence showed up in a really unique way for me because when I got there and I entered the room, it had been maybe a year since I've seen this individual. The effects of cancer were pretty apparent on him, and he looked very unwell and indeed, was on his deathbed. So that initial shock, it was very hard to overcome in that moment, and just being a bit overwhelmed by the emotions that kind of situation would arise. And I didn't really know how best to encounter or what to talk about exactly with him because nothing was really coming to mind. I was just really having quite a time with it. And so I elicited the help of actually a large language model to help context this situation and discover ways to engage with them. And the feedback was actually so remarkable. It opened up an entire trajectory of conversation, which led to us revisiting some of our most cherished moments. It was truly a fascinating example of the way AI can be used in definitely uncustomary ways.
What a powerful moment
Yeah,
and a powerful way AI show up in your life.
yeah,
But maybe could you lead us through your journey, and how did you get so fascinated by AI, and maybe just kind of lead us through what do you do today, and what are you excited about these days?
yeah, sure. So I'll start by saying what it is that I do. And I run the first company of its kind, which is a talent representation agency for individuals within the artificial intelligence and philosophy fields. And I now represent some of the most famous pioneers driving some of the most ambitious efforts within artificial intelligence. And the lineup of people I represent includes individuals who were featured in Time Magazine's 100 most influential in AI, right? And I also represent separately the world's most famous humanoid robot, Sophia, who has graced the stages all across the world in hundreds of countries. And how did I get into this is, how I came to be acquainted with all this field is really fascinating. So about 10, maybe 11 years ago, I was on a return flight back from San Francisco where I recognized an individual on a plane. And this individual, his name is Ben Gortzel. He's a leading AI researcher and scientist. Is incredibly famous for his efforts in blockchain and AI. He, at the time, this is 11 years ago, was featured on the theoretical physicist show, Michio Kaku, his show called Sci-Fi Science. And this show was dedicated towards interviewing individuals who are pioneering efforts that would be considered like sci-fi science. Robotics, AI was one of them, right? Healthcare, gene engineering. We'd interview really a vast array of really incredible, fascinating, accomplished people. And Ben was someone who was interviewed because of his efforts in AI, and he was famous enough, 11 years ago, to land on Michio Kaku's television show. But his fame has since exploded massively since then. He really is very world famous, world renowned. Anyway, Ben is unique because he has a very specific intonation. It's very recognizable. His voice sounds so unique. And when he was talking in the airplane, I kind of heard it in the distance, and I knew that the wheels started turning, if you will. But I actually ended up sitting right next to him. And,
Was that
eventually I
by
made the
accident
connection.
or
I
was that by
know it was
accident?
complete accident.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So eventually I came to know who he was through like kind of gentle inquiry with him, and then not just open up the floodgates. And at the time, he was serving on the board of Hanson Robotics as their chief science officer. This is before Sophia was even developed, and she was just a dream, right? And Ben was working on this problem, or this task of embodied AI, embodied artificial intelligence that is embodied in a physical system. And they always had these dreams, and they were throwing around a couple ideas of how this should look. Eventually, they led to Sophia. So, a few years following, maybe 2 years following that encounter, that chance encounter on the airplane, Ben had been bringing me up in company board meetings as someone who he recommends to drive forward the efforts of, getting Sophia into more businesses, into events, someone who can lead the charge on that. And, one day I eventually get a phone call from the CEO, David Hanson, asking me if I want to come on board and help, spread the word of Sophia all around the world. And of course I said yes. It was the most incredible opportunity in the world. And it's from that work that I have come to know some of the world's most famous conference organizers, the biggest events, most important events happening around the world, including Web Summit, and also the individuals who were invited to those very same stages along with Sophia. People making significant contributions to the field of artificial intelligence, robotics, philosophy, all these like really remarkable efforts taking place around the world, deeply impactful, applications of technology. And from there, I was able to start my own company from this network.
Fascinating, man.
Yeah,
I just want to remind everybody listening live to this conversation, you're welcome to post your questions in the comments. And if we have time, we'll take some questions. So make sure to do that. Matthew, let's talk about Sophia.
sure.
When was the first time you met her? And
Oh, that's
what
a good
was
question.
your first impression?
Yeah. Oh, the first time I met her, I had already been placing her in events, right? And even well before I actually laid eyes on her, which was really remarkable. But shortly after I came on board, I met her actually in Los Angeles at a movie studio. And that
Okay.
experience was really wild, I must say, because I had, of course, seen and had all the product literature for Sophia, and I was legitimately blown away by just how lifelike she looked. It it was in some cases almost, if you look up close enough, almost indistinguishable from a human woman. It was mind blowing.
What were some of the most fascinating moments you remember from, let's say, conferences and events? Maybe when she was giving interviews, or something that was for you, maybe even wow. What was that kind of moment?
Yeah, sure. So one thing about, I mean, it, it's either with Sophia or with my own company, Profits of AI. Really, the primary function is live events. It's an events company, event fulfillment, experience, live event experience company. And what I really love and appreciate about the live event space specifically is that you show up and these are their flagship events of companies. This is like what everyone's looking forward to. This is what, like, the end of the year, no one's working, no one's everyone's just there to have a good time. They show up and have a good time, so you're surrounded by a lot of you know positive energy, and it just makes the best setting. So in operating under these influences, right, these conference organizers get incredibly creative with the way that they have Sophia come out and present on stage, right? And some of them like throw in, some really remarkable things. So one of the more memorable experiences was in Colombia when Sophia, they had envisioned this, they blended philosophy and art also with her appearance, and her participation in the event was a complete surprise to the conference members who were attending, right? So they wanted to make it a big show, and they had Sophia unveil or enter through an egg, like what, a model egg that came down from the ceiling, and then it, as it came onto the stage, it opened up, and it's like two, with themes of like this rebirth of this new type of entity that now exists on the earth, this embodied AI, human intelligence robots, right? I mean, it was really a sight to see, that's for sure.
So people recognize her and just started, like the whole room kind of exploded, I guess.
Yeah, that's the wonderful thing about Sophia is, anywhere she shows up, she's pretty well recognized. I mean, there's very few places in the world you can go at this point where Sophia wouldn't have people who recognize her.
Could you give us
And
a bit of? I'm super curious. Like, could you give us a bit of a behind the scenes of what does it look like to the whole process of booking her to an event? Arranging. I mean, as an agent, if you're booking human speakers, you
yeah,
need to identify what are the core objectives of the event producer, what are the topics that how does that work with Sophia, from you managing the whole process, the logistics of bringing her on stage and making sure that she delivers the what the event producers, satisfying the event producers and the audience.
Yeah. So it's really important actually to meet beforehand and just like, hear from conference organizers, what are they looking to accomplish with this event? Like what are the key goals, the strategic vision for the event, and why they're inviting Sophia, right? And so what I primarily do is I help create and lay the foundation, if you will, of what that appearance actually looks like. And usually this surrounds some bold initiative that the company, the inviting company, is going to unveil to maybe their employees, and they use Sophia as a creative vehicle by which to talk about and announce these new company initiatives, because in many ways she's the embodiment of the future, right? She's kind of like the future visualized. And this so whenever a company is looking to pioneer some future type program that maybe incorporates a fair deal of technology, Sophia is a pretty good catalyst by which to open up and have those conversations with the employees. So we will work with them to set the stage for how that looks. Uh, on my end, I'm usually just setting up that initial, settings to building what that is actually going to look like. And then once the contract and all that's finalized, then I hand it off to the events team, and they kind of take it from there. And they're the ones who deal with all the logistics, the flights. Um, Something you may find interesting though is Sophia travels as just normal carry-on luggage. So her body, which is the heaviest part, is stored underneath, but the head is actually quite sensitive, right, and fragile. So it needs to remain with the operators traveling to the event. So they're walking around with a disembodied robotic head.
What do you tell
And
to
the
the
airplane, and going through TSA. I cannot believe you wouldn't believe how many like stories we have surrounding this,
beep beep?
carrying a robotic
What are
head
you
around.
carrying?
Yeah,
I love it.
yeah,
Incredible, man.
yeah,
Oh, so that should be like, if you're the security guard, like, what is it? Amazing.
yeah. Like,
But,
what is
but, but
going on here?
I'm curious. The and I'm not an expert. I don't know so much about Sophia. I mean, I've obviously,
Huh?
like any other human being, I've been seeing some different appearances, interviews, those kind of things. But is there any specific kind of areas that she's branded towards? Like, she loves to talk about these type of things, like thinking about the language model and all the information and data that she's wired with. Like, is there any specific topics that she's she's an expert of, if I can say it that way?
Yeah, it's probably a good idea to go over and talk a bit about the philosophy behind Sophia and like why she was created, because I think that will probably give more
Hmm.
context as to why
Okay.
she is even participating in all these events, right? So we at Hanson Robotics, our efforts are kind of defined by making a standardized utility platform for generalizing robotics, right? That can do all kinds of things. And in the process, generalizing artificial intelligence. So we're innovators in the field of artificial general intelligence. And that means AI that can be more adaptive and understanding and capable, right? Uh, embodiment, for example, with robotic embodiment, being able to interact with the visible world can make a huge difference in the future of artificial intelligence. And a lot of leading researchers actually agree on this point. So having a physical robot makes a difference in the future of artificial intelligence itself. It allows AI to speak to people on human terms, to speak to the human heart, and have the capability of expressing emotional awareness, social intelligence, and not just being a thing of utility, but speaking to the need, the deep-seated human need for human connection, emotional connection, you could say. So that's one of the primary motivations behind the creation of
Could you
Sophia.
now that you gave the primary motivation, the
Yeah.
purpose of why Sophia was built, I think it would be very interesting for the audience of this podcast to learn what are the future implications, like what could be some examples of this type of, should we call them entities, what could be this physical embodiment, did you call them physical embodiment AI,
Mhm.
what could be some different day-to-day implications, and maybe since you're very close to so many experts and you're part of the company as well, if you can give us some rough time frame of where are we going and when do we get there potentially.
Yeah. So the applications of humanoid robots specifically are really varied. And so you can imagine when these systems, these entities, you could say, become incredibly robust, right? And very convincing as far as the way that they look, the way they interact with you, and just the overall capabilities, right? Where they can now begin to assist in a whole host of things. So there have been numerous experiments in which, or studies, I should say, that uh, Hanson Robotics has participated in which tests were run based on the feedback, the emotional state, you could say, of people who have interacted with a humanoid robot. So this has happened in like following a dining experience where people interacted with the robot and then upon leaving would be asked by the robot what was their experience, how did they feel about having a robot assist them with these things, and the result was actually overwhelmingly positive in a number of different across a number of different studies. So having these robots initially roll out as service agents, like things that you will go to when looking for information on, how to get around the city, how to navigate your hotel or access to services. It makes a really personal and easy conversant to attaining information that you otherwise maybe wouldn't be so inclined to learn from had it be just a computer screen that you're just simply talking to, right? Uh, it makes learning itself much more interesting, and I think robots will excel in this capacity. I think once they begin to develop along really convincing lines, uh, very robust, that the educational application of them will be really remarkable, and we'll see mass adoption in that as well.
Do you think now one of the major challenges is the cost?
Yeah, yeah, that is very that's definitely worth mentioning. The humanoid robotics business is an extremely expensive one. It manufacturing humanoid robots is not cheap. They're incredibly complex things. They have hundreds of moving parts, right? And they all need to work flawlessly in order to be this convincing thing, or else it just completely ruins the effect. If something is off, if a joint doesn't work, if an eyelid gets stuck, it kind of ruins that perception, that this mimicry of humanity, right? If something is off, that kind of goes away very quickly. So all of it must function very flawlessly, which robots never do. They always inevitably break somehow. So getting them to be functional reliably is a very expensive endeavor.
It's super interesting that back in the 70s, 80s, 90s, it's like everybody was like, "Oh, robots are gonna come," but nobody really thought about this problem, right? It's like
Yeah.
so. I don't know. It feels like a surprise to everybody that the first industries that got disrupted by AI is the creative industry, copywriting, advertisement, like marketing, like those kind of industries were not the first that came to mind. Even though now, looking backwards, it's so
Yeah,
logical.
of course. Yeah, it's really fascinating, right? I mean, and on the robotics front, if you're familiar with the Sphere in Las Vegas, are you?
The
So
sphere.
the Sphere in Las Vegas, it's a structure that truly looks like it's from the year 3000. Like, it is unbelievable what this thing, and it was designed to be like this visual representation of what the future holds, right? Because it's, number one, incredibly technically complex, but the outside of it is filled with like high resolution screens. And what they did is they put humanoid robots, installed 3 humanoid robots inside the showroom, to greet guests right away of as they enter. So they're on permanent rotation there. It's the Amica robot from Engineered Arts. Uh, this is a strong testament to this connection of humanoid robots and the future and how we envision it, that they will be inevitably a part of it.
Is that what you're most excited about when it comes to AI?
Yeah, it's a good question. No, I think that what I mean, I do really love humanoid robots because they are a blend of art and engineering, you could say, right? That's literally why Engineered Arts, maker of Amica, made their company. But I am most excited. The thing that gets me most exhilarated is artificial intelligence's connection to arts in general, and the different ways that individuals are using artificial intelligence as a mode of expression, right? This is something really close to my heart, you could say, though not an artist myself.
Maybe you can
I just
become one soon enough with all the
Yeah,
tools that are popping up and everything. I mean, it's just crazy from the emergence of ChatGPT a little bit more than a year ago, right? It's not so, I mean, 14 months or what it was published. And
yeah.
then everything had happened ever since. I mean, it's scary how fast everything kind of, I mean, it's, in a way, it's like you go and you start learning about some tools and then you see a new video of a new tool and a new thing. And it's like, I think it's very exciting. At the same time, the speed of development is just fascinating.
Oh, it's exponential, really. I mean, and in that time, now you see entire divisions, you could say, of companies dedicated towards unveiling and integrating these large language models and generative AI into their actual business processes from the top down. So the speed of adoption has been really remarkable. I mean, I think that that's it comes as no surprise, but at the same time, it's like it's almost unbelievable.
And you've been privileged in many ways to spend significant amounts of time with some of the most prolific thinkers in the world in the areas of AI. Um,
Oh
could you maybe
yes,
talk a little bit more about it? You kind of mentioned at the beginning of the conversation that you're representing some of the smartest people in the area of AI. What's what does that look like? And also, like on a bigger picture level, what are some of the trends that we should pay attention to?
yeah. So what does it look like? So I run a talent representation agency for individuals who have made significant contributions to the field of artificial intelligence, right? And at this point, I represent almost 30 individuals. And what I always found really fascinating being in this industry is that you can represent close to 30 people now and growing. The list is ever growing of people in artificial intelligence industries. And no, there's no two speakers who will speak on the exact way that artificial intelligence shows up in the world. They all can talk across the different parallels, if you will. So it's a testament to the pervasive nature of artificial intelligence. It's literally in everything, and it shows up in so many unique ways, even ways. And that's also another thing that I appreciate about being in the position that I'm in. I'm constantly learning from these individuals that I represent and being introduced to new ways that artificial intelligence is being applied that I otherwise would likely have never come across had I not met them. So yeah, it really has been a privilege, and because of the work, I've been able to work, with conference organizers or even directly with companies on implementing AI in their operations properly.
So it's on the one side operating as a speaking bureau, very specific area of a speak, but it's also consulting, as I understand.
Yeah, that's correct. So, I always envisioned forming the company as this trusted organization where you can get reliable and take the guesswork out of whether or not this individual is qualified to either speak at your event or help your company excel in the artificial intelligence race, if you will, because the quality of the information is literally coming from the top of the industry. And that's always the way that I had envisioned forming this. And so the caliber of the individuals in which I represent are truly renowned and have, they've either graced the stages, they're multi award winners and nominees. And, like I said, have been featured on Time Magazine's 100 most influential in AI. So the, they aren't nobodies, you could say. They're really remarkable individuals.
And how does the process look like? Okay, profits of AI. I guess that's the place that people, there might be some conference producers, there might be some representatives of companies that are interested in kind of stepping up their game in the areas of AI. If they want to reach out to you, what is the process? Is there some kind of a form of like how do you sort of like curate the right kind of expert to connect them with?
Oh yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, I mean, there's a form, and it's always just initial because I think getting too specific just right off the bat is not very helpful for anyone. I think just getting in contact, through a simple, "Hey, I'm here. We'd like to engage with you guys. Please reach out." And from there, we either have some meetings, go back and forth a couple of times on emails just to figure out exactly what they're looking for, whether they're producing an event or they actually want, some expert to come into their company and help them integrate AI. But that process is pretty straightforward and pretty seamless.
So how long you've been doing that now?
Yeah, I
Profits
started
of
the
AI, I mean.
company.
Mm.
Yeah, I started the company. It was kind of at this critical point where after after I had been working with Hanson Robotics and Sophia for maybe, I think at that point it was maybe almost 6 years. It kind of culminated in one of these events in particular that Sophia was invited to. She was invited to participate in the Prince of Monaco's private event, the Ocean Gala, right? And this is an event where it's unbelievably extravagant, as you would expect. It's at the casino, right? Behind it, and it was truly unbelievable. And at this, he auctions off items from his personal collection to the various celebrities and athletes who were in attendance at this event. And the items themselves sell for often hundreds of thousands to millions of euros, right? Depending on what it is that they're selling. And all of the proceeds he then invest into a fund that goes into ocean initiatives, helping advance environmentalism as it relates to the ocean specifically. So it was at this event, right, when I said, okay, look, I have this network. Now it's reached kind of like arguably the top, where I'm now at a private event for the Prince of Monaco. I really need to do something with this network that I've developed. At that point, Sophia had been in almost 100 countries around the world. And so shortly after this event in 2019 is when I decided to do something with this network. And that's when I formed my company, Profits of AI. And some of the initial speakers actually, I mean, I really have to hand it to them because it was just a dream at that point. I didn't have a website. I didn't have anything to show them. It was just this vision that I was
Mhm.
able to, successfully convey the importance of a platform dedicated towards individuals within the AI field specifically. Because I've also thought that AI is too impactful, it's too unique and pervasive for the individuals advancing its most ambitious efforts to be listed right alongside in other traditional speakers bureaus, like for example listed alongside comedians or people who talk about a vast array of insurance related issues. There's just like the speakers bureaus are so broad, right? And they cover everything. They're really useful, but I just always envision that artificial intelligence is just too important. It needs its own separate platform, a unique one. And so here we are today, and it's been really a truly remarkable journey.
And it's been a journey now. You said started 2019.
Yeah.
Just for us to understand, how has the demand for experts in the area of AI expanded over time? Like, do you see not just the last 12 months, but let's say the last 3 or 6 months, the demand is growing? Like, how do you see the trend of the demand for such experts?
Yeah. I mean, the demand certainly blew up and exploded after the unveiling of ChatGPT, of course, because it was it didn't take long for companies to realize that this is something that they need to start integrating. And in fact, if they don't start implementing AI into their operations, that they're likely going to be at a disadvantage, especially if you're a sufficiently large company. So shortly after that is kind of when the demand really ramped up, and ever since then, it's been, you know, a journey of just trying to fulfill every single request that comes in, while also at the same time, you know, getting my name out there and introducing my company and what I'm trying to do to as many people as possible. And it's been resonating quite a bit with a number of conference organizers specifically. I mean, my work with Prophets of AI and what I'm doing, it's like it's clear that it really is uh, it's striking an accord with many of these conference producers. I was recently invited to panel, participate in a panel at a really prestigious event. It's called Hope Global Forums. It's in Atlanta, Georgia, and my panel was immediately following Sam Altman's, who was speaking at the event. So I got to meet my hero backstage, Sam Altman. I mean, it was really remarkable. I mean, the first time I actually saw him, he was just washing his hands, right? He's like in the sink, like washing his hands. I was in the bathroom. I was like, oh, hello, sir. Like, yeah, it's like just like very casual, but it was mind blowing.
Keeping it cool, like
I
you
kept
know.
it cool. I didn't I didn't go fangirl on him. But yeah, it was a good time.
I love it, man. Could you, because you mentioned, now people look at you, and I'm sure like you're going to many stages these days, even though you're the person that's doing a lot of work in the background, but you're going a lot of stages.
Yeah.
Um, you have a very special style. Those of you who see you on events, like you're recognizable. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Unique, and you have this very very cool attitude, very calm presence. But sometimes people get the impression it's, this guy has it figured out. It's easy. He has no challenges. It's easy peasy. And knowing a little bit about this business and this industry, I know how much it actually takes, the effort you have to put in. And I'm curious if you can kind of share a little bit, a glimpse behind the scenes of how does your week look like. What are some of your main challenges, like maybe not even now, but like from starting to build this thing, how many hours did you have to work, like how did you actually manage to get to the level you are today?
Yeah, Stoyan, you know better than anyone. I mean, being an entrepreneur is not for the faint of heart. I mean, if you are, if you're bewailing your current job where, you're maybe working 10 hours a day, maybe even 11 if you have a crazy boss, right? It's almost like that's just the standard when you're building your own company. And oftentimes you could be doing it and you're not getting paid to do it because no one's there stepping in. So the journey towards building your own company and entrepreneurship is incredibly difficult. It's very rare, I think, for someone to have some idea of a new idea, a product or a service, and just launch it, and then they're immediately making money and successful. I think that that's probably very uncommon. And so getting to the point where you are, generating income, building your company to the point where it can actually support your lifestyle, I think for most entrepreneurs is incredibly uh, hard. And establishing habits surrounding your daily activities is really important, and it serves well to you have to become really regimented across a lot of different uh, uh, areas of your life, you could say, right? And so yeah, we could talk a bit about my own personal schedule a bit, and like what uh, how that shows up.
I would love to,
To,
and the reason is also I used to watch all these professional speakers on the screen, and it kind of felt easy, not easy, but like you see them on all these different places, and then you become one, and you
yeah,
start traveling, and you
yeah,
start doing all the logistics around it, and changing time zones, waking up in
and
different places, and time
yeah,
zones, climate, and it's like, man, it's not that easy. It's actually pretty tough
no,
to just to keep a routine, just to the simple things, just going to the gym, eating healthy, sleeping properly. So
yeah,
yeah, I would love to hear more about your routines, man.
yeah. Because a good routine is absolutely needed. You have to have some sort of ritual surrounding your activities, or else you're waking up tired. Maybe you're not even going to sleep. I mean, it creates a whole host of problems that severely impact your productivity and effectiveness during your working waking hours, right? So on my end, I have found it to be incredibly important to prioritize physical exercise. um, for me, working out, becoming physically in shape. I mean, it is it's one of those things where it's like clothing. It The moment you walk into a room, just unconsciously, it people will recognize, just if they will be able to ascertain a few things about you. Oh, look, the way they dress, they do, they care about their appearance, they're stylish or whatever, or they are physically fit. That, so you can already ascertain that if you are physically fit, that they have some sort of schedule behind their efforts, that where they prioritize physical exercise, right? And so it's a testament to that individual's habits, you could say, because it's a hell of a lot of hard work, going to the gym consistently, working out and getting in shape. I mean, it's like one of the hardest tasks you can do, right? And it requires so you have to eat right, you have to have a consistent schedule, you have to be sleeping right. So there's all those things that are immediately apparent just by the physical appearance of someone, and if they're working out. So you can just automatically assume that. And for me, I feel that because of that reason, it is really important for me to prioritize that. So my day usually surrounds some sort of physical activity, whether it's primarily resistance training, weight training, but also incorporating some yoga, and which I find to be very complementary. Actually, hot yoga specifically, uh, you know,
Okay.
to my efforts in the gym, you could say. And then of course, having some time where you're actually getting an adequate amount of sleep is incredibly important also. I mean, of course everyone knows this, but very few people, I think, put it into practice. You know what it reminds me of, this conversation, is the actor Mark Wahlberg.
Yes.
Okay. Have you seen his personal schedule? Because he's like known as being like kind of like the penultimate entrepreneur. He's incredibly successful. He owns the Wahlbergs. It's like a hamburger chain. He's a A-list actor. Like, so he has all these like side businesses, and he's like really professionally accomplished, right? And so he published his his like, this thing is insane, man. Like what his daily ritual is. It's like, it's unbelievable. It's like, It doesn't look very fun,
That's
I must
public.
say.
That's public. You can go and you
Yeah,
can
it's public.
see.
Yeah, Mark
Okay.
Wahlberg's daily schedule. You should probably
So
look that up.
but it's like a routine. Like he
A
publishes it every
routine.
week, or like, man.
It's daily. This is what he does. It's like it consists of
I
like
love these people, man.
waking up a completely unreasonable, unfathomable hour, and then just like different sets of work.
But
I think he works
there's a
out
few of
twice
these
a day.
people, right? There's a few of
Yeah,
these people. One of them is Tom Cruise. There's
yeah,
the Dwayne Johnson, The Rock. I mean, he's very good friend that they're having a lot of jokes with, but both of them, like Kevin Hart, like these guys are
yeah.
just. If you look at the the amount of effort and focus and determination, people just
Around
think
their
these guys are
personal schedule.
actors. Mm. They're not just actors. They're
Yeah.
they're just machines, man. Getting
Yeah,
back to
but
you said,
that is a testament
mm,
to, I mean, what it takes. I mean,
mm,
it's very clear that in order to be su- successful, you have to drive an inordinate amount of uh, effort, coordination, pressure around what you're doing, which includes your day's schedule. So it's no surprise to me that people like Tom Cruise and The Rock all have these similar type schedules as well. It's what's needed. It's what life calls for in
I
this
mean, it
fast-paced
is, man.
environment.
If you want to perform at your highest level sustainably, I guess everybody can have a good season. Not
Sustainably.
everybody, but the most talented people can have a good season or two. But if you want to be at the
Yep,
top of your
that's right.
game sustainably, like, I mean, have a look at. You might be a fan of Messi. You might be a fan of Ronaldo. I don't care. Both
Yeah,
of them are probably the number one and number two
yeah,
best football players ever.
yeah.
But then if you look into the Brazilian Ronaldo, many coaches, many players would say this guy has the most insane talent ever. But
Yeah.
but if it's true, it's true. I mean, I'm not sure if it's true, but like he was not out of this world. However, the way these people treated the game, I mean, have a look at the Ronaldo, and I mean, he would never drink a Coke, or like, he's always gonna eat
The
healthy. He's
discipline.
gonna practice like the discipline, man.
The
And they
discipline.
were sustainably all outperforming everybody, right, for years and years and years. Same with Tom Cruise. Same with you know
Yeah.
Arnold Schwarzenegger, man. Like, he just got a new book. I mean, what are we talking about? It's the hours you don't see. People look
Yeah.
at you, Matthew. You're kicking ass, man. I saw you at the event. You've been just like,
Yeah.
I mean, there's a difference between you and majority of the people who are, by the way, some of the best in the world. The
Hmm.
way you show up, your presence, the way you look, your preparation, right?
Yeah.
I catch them like, this guy's different, man. But I
Yeah.
know it's not. He just woke up and came to the event and had some fun. I mean, it's the hours that you
Yeah.
put behind
Oh,
that nobody sees.
yeah. There was a hell of a lot of hard work behind getting towards that invitation to MC the stage at Web Summit where we met. I mean, that didn't just come easily. Web Summit is the largest tech event in Europe, right? They don't just invite anyone to participate at their events. They're really selective, and their event curation team, the conference curation team they are really smart people, and they are really only looking for people who would qualify, who fit well with the conference teams, what they're doing. So yeah, behind all of that, and what led to me being there is this, of course, it's it was a lot of low moments, but that's the life of an entrepreneur, right? It's not all ups. It's usually mostly downs.
Yeah, and thanks
And
for
being
sharing that,
accustomed
because
with adversity and failure is just, it goes hand in hand with being an entrepreneur. You may be working on a project for weeks, something that you believe is critical for like a milestone event in your company. It doesn't pan out. Most likely won't pan out. And that's kind of the vision, I think, that is most appropriate to take when leading the efforts behind your own company is that whatever idea you have that or plans that you have, it's probably on the safer side, statistically speaking, for you to just think that it's probably likely not going to happen. But if it does, it'll be you'll be genuinely surprised, and of course you'll celebrate that. But the entrepreneur's life is usually a life of failure, of failed initiatives, of ideas that never came to light, that never saw the light of day. And yeah, so I think it builds resilience. The the path of an entrepreneur is in many ways also a spiritual one or a philosophical one, right? I mean, there's a whole like trajectory that we could talk about there, but I'm not sure if we'd want to go there. But yeah, it's been difficult, that's for sure.
And then you have this 2% of time that you show up on stage and give a speech, or you take
Yeah,
the spotlight on the projector, and this is
it's
what people
it's this.
see. This is what
Yeah,
people see on social media, because
yeah,
that's what you post, right? You
of
made it to Web
course.
Summit, you're gonna post
Yeah,
the stuff so people see that. And I do believe we should be doing better as a society, posting more about sharing more about the struggles and the day-to-day effort and
I couldn't
hiccups and
agree more.
setbacks.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Because
Amen, man.
life is a struggle for most, right? I mean, very few people I think have it easy and can just kick back and not work too hard. I think most people are very hard workers, and life has a way of resisting what you want to do more often than not. So being able to overcome those resistances, not get discouraged, is the spirit of an entrepreneur. It's foundational, you could say.
Couldn't agree anymore. And since we're
Yeah,
coming close to the end of the episode, I would like to kind of circle back to where we started. And
sure.
uh, we talk about AI during the whole episode. And if you can maybe paint us a picture. I know you're a proponent of tech for good, and um, you're a very positive person. Like, what's your vision for the world? The best case scenario of where we are going, having AI in the picture.
Yeah, so the topic is actually an interesting one because not too long ago, Bill Gates himself, right, felt inclined to release an article. And in the article, I'm not sure if you saw it, is bringing to attention this new era of AI agents, specifically these AI agents, right? These are and will be entities in which know you unlike any other system and help you navigate your personal preferences and your decision making in the world in really impactful and direct ways, right? So what Bill Gates said in this article basically is that the way that we're going to be interacting with computers is completely different in the future. It's going to really change across many ways, and so you can envision once the they work out some of the ethical guidelines behind these AI agents and standardize the implementation of it, you could say, which I represent people who are working on like these very same, you know, ethical considerations and standardization practices behind the implementation of AI in mass across society. So that's what I really it's another avenue I really appreciate being involved in. But you can imagine that once these systems are actually commonplace, well, the world looks a lot different, I think, at that point. And I think that AI in the next, 2 to maybe 5 years is going to start getting really capable, you could say, like really mind blowing in what is happening around the world. So, very much looking forward to it. Excited to be part of in a very connected way towards all of this uh, uh, motion, you could say, behind artificial intelligence.
And final question related to that. This podcast is seen and listened to by many entrepreneurs, business professionals, ambitious leaders. What would be your final message in terms of how should we prepare to be able to thrive in such a world?
Yeah, there is very likely, if you prefer a in-person thing, some sort of program in your city, if you live in a large enough city, where AI best practices are being uh, introduced, or there's some sort of workshops that take place. Really just start getting involved with people who are like-minded in the field. There's a unbelievable amount of Discord channels and Slack channels dedicated towards just discussing how you like start acquainting yourself with artificial intelligence. So just if you haven't already, just start getting acquainted with it, and become familiar with the terminology behind all of these efforts and technologies, because it's already arrived, but it's going to arrive fully formed in over the next couple years.
It's what people say. Just
Yeah.
allocate a certain amount of hours per week. Could be 1 hour, 2 hours, which is allocated
Yep.
for you becoming acquainted and just playing around with things and being prepared. So
Yep.
thank you so much, Matthew. What a pleasure having you, man. What an honor having such a rock star. I mean,
Hey,
I
thank
hope
you,
you guys
Soyan.
enjoy.
You're the best. The productivity mastery is amazing podcast for sure.
Appreciate it, man. But just want to give you the kind of the final kind of minute to remind the audience and thank you everybody for listening, for being with us until the end of the episode. If you enjoyed this episode, definitely make sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Um, I wanted to give you the space, Matthew, just to once again summarize where could people get in touch with you, find you, and how can you help conference producers and businesses out there.
Yeah. So if you want to get in touch, please, I encourage you to do so. You can go to the website. Of course, that's always the best way, profitsofai.com. And there's a contact us form. Reach out, say hello. I'll be sure to get back to you right away. And if you are a business owner or a conference producer and you're looking for a way to talk about and highlight some of the most meaningful applications of artificial intelligence, whether that's in a practical way in your business, like the nuts and bolts of it, or if it's a way that you want to be introduced to its artistic application, and all of those, like so many incredibly beautiful ways that artificial intelligence can be used as a way of expressing and conveying the critical importance of artificial intelligence and its effect on society through art, then reach out as well. So there's a whole lot of things that we can talk about.
Cheers, Ben. Thank you so much for being with
Cheers.
us, for sharing all the learnings. Thanks everybody for being with us, and make sure to tuning in again for the next episode of Productivity Mastery. Have a great day, and maybe go and block an hour in your calendar to start playing around with AI, because guys, it's coming. It's coming. It's not going
That's
back.
right.
So hey, goodbye everybody. See you next time.